So sorry about the interruption. We're going to continue working a little bit with Mr. Z, going to his target bed. So in the beginning, you'll see that no matter what your target might be, I would make it in the beginning fun to go and find this appealing. So what I mean by that is every time your puppy, places themselves onto the target mat or dog bed or cot, is you want to start feeding for them for being on that target. So now, I'm not applying that stay yet, which we have been doing throughout class. We've also been practicing on sometimes a mat or a blanket as our target spot. So I did bring out a little chew for him too. So if, let's say, for example, he's of course going to step on it. If let's say he wants to chew on something, he has an available item. So here, we'll just move it from underneath his little belly. So I sometimes like to pair chew activities with practicing going and settling on a target. The reason behind that is for most puppies, staying stationary seems like the dumbest idea ever. So I want him to start thinking there's value in not moving. So as we're practicing, you can either be feeding your puppy directly to their mouth if they're not too mouthy. If again they're very mouthy with their how they're taking their snacks, you can always practice a gentle or easy behavior as well, or skill. But the other part too is, remember how we've mentioned that if the mouth is becoming rather hard, so that means they're taking their food with a lot of hard bites throughout the scenario, that tends to equal that the arousal or the anxiety is kind of up high. So if your pup is taking food hard and they normally are a softer mouth, then that's normally also, again, that barometer as to how your puppy might be feeling with the setup or what you're working on. So right now for Mr. Z, I haven't really said stay, but I am technically working the same dynamic I would be during my stay cue. So as he is on his place, again, I don't care if he's in a sit or a down, but if let's say we started in a down position, I'm going to feed for some of that down position instead of a sit position. So let's say I'm going to include a stay now. So I'm going to tell him stay. And I'm not going to add tons of distance. There's already plenty of distractions. And there's already, for example, we're working duration. So let's say he breaks, so he gets up and wiggles. I think a lot of times he's looking for extra tidbits that may have fallen off. So we'd go again, bed or place or whatever slogan, feed for that first setup. Now we might get him comfortable back into the down. And again, feed for that lovely down. Because again, I want him to start thinking that each behavior that he's working on skill-wise has a bank account attached. So as he's working through each behavior, he's now building up a good association. And also, remember, what gets reinforced tends to get repeated when it comes to behavior. So again, I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to tell him to stay. And I'm going to go ahead and work a couple little stay reps. So remember with stay, we're feeding for being stationary, unlike when we did those weights, where the weight is then being called out of with a recall. With stay, I don't like to pair it with my recall. And he's like, no, I'd rather just be a floppy noodle. 2, if your puppy sometimes starts to get a little goofy or a little wild, it's normally them getting a little tired or frustrated. So if Mr. Z, again, he's been kind of out all morning and working a few skills, so he might be ready to go take his little siesta in a little bit. I think he also would really like to try to make this dog bed into like a bit more of a nest, but there's no digging capabilities to an extent because it's not a squishy blanket to wiggle around. So you'll see that as I'm blabbing, my repetitions are short and sweet. He's like, let's be a wild man. Ready, bed? Yes. So don't worry if sometimes your training, again, is not perfectly linear or if they decide to be wild. This is also your puppy sometimes working through the dynamic of what the heck are we doing? So I love that he's just immensely goofy and hilarious. He's rolling on his dog bone. But right now, even if your stays are not perfect, you want to think about it as he's still creating a good positive association. Oh my gosh, you're quite the singer. A good association with being stationary. So let's say I'm going to end my stay. I'm going to stop feeding him through the reps. You're a goofy boy today. And then when he's all done eating, I would say, all done with some attention. He's like, let's wrestle. And then I get him up and off the mat. But the only time he gets fed for a stay is while he's on the stay spot. Your stays, again, can happen anywhere. So don't feel your stay, has to happen, for example, only on a dog bed or a target, because you're not going to bring those everywhere with you. But the reason I pair my stays typically with a target mat is because I want my dog to start thinking there's value in relaxing and staying in one spot. Ready? Sit. You're a very goofy boy today. Nice job. Two, if sometimes your puppies are not always feeling it, remember that he's going through growth spurts. Sometimes his body may actually feel uncomfortable. It could also be he might need a little potty break again. I find that my boy tends to go a little bananas when he needs to go to the restroom. So you'll start to notice these little patterns or behavior sort of moments for your puppy. So as you get to learn each other and as he's changing, some of his responses to the environment might also change. So ready, Zeus? Come. Yes, nice job. So don't worry if sometimes you're working a certain skill and then your puppy has to take a little, moment from the behavior. Nice job placing on there. Because a lot of times, because of his attention span or his ability to learn, so much at a time, you may have moments where he needs to take little breaks or recesses through the training. So again, sit. Yes, nice job. And we might work that down again. Yes. But remember, think about stay as in freeze tag with room service again. And the only time he's being fed throughout the stay in the beginning is while he's in it. So what I mean by that is as they become more advanced with stay, you're not feeding every 3 seconds. It might be every 10 to 15. It might be every 30 to 40 seconds. And then eventually those durations get bigger and bigger. And you maybe reinforce once or twice versus like 15 to 16 snacks for the simple stay position. Ready, sit? Yes, nice job. Ready? Down. Nice. Yes. But even if you do little bits of stays, you don't even say the cue word, but you're just working how to get his body and his mind situated in this bubble of a down and a vegging. You may just kind of keep capturing the right behavior, and eventually then from there, end the exercise and give him a little breather. So again, when we want to end the stay, I would typically go and feed him my last little snack. Then I would say all done, or you could have finished, release, free time. You want a slogan that's different than, like, for example, okay. So again, I'm going to release the handsome guy with some touches. He's like, why don't we just wrestle? We'll get him up and wiggle, but there's no food for leaving his stay position wherever it might be. So think about stay again, like freeze tag with room service. And then your wait would be they're waiting until they get called forward to you with a recall, or if they get called out of their position to go retrieve an item or to go eat something. So wait could be hold back, and then movement is what's being fed. Where, for example, with stay, what you're feeding for is stationary. So think of stationary stay or statue stay. And that's a great way to remind yourselves that staying is about being stuck. So very nice. And that's when we feed the handsome guy. Nice. Beautiful. Yes. So again, you'll see my rapid fire repetitions right now because we're trying to build up value in a puppy that has a very short attention span or a very limited understanding of maybe the skill set that we're working on. So keeping it short and sweet with shorter little reps means that it's more likely he's going to be able to hold a downstay compared to waiting a minute between each snack. He'd probably be off and romping and doing completely other skills compared to settling on a dog bed or a cot. Nice. Yes. So again, let's say we want to end this beautiful stay. I'd say all done or whatever slogan. Then I like to add some touch if my puppy doesn't dislike touch. Nice job, my handsome. Oh, that's a good itchy spot, huh? And then we get him up and wiggling. He's like, no, I really like being on my bed. So let's say you get a moment where your puppy doesn't want to break from their position. I tend to, again, just seem a little bit more intriguing from another angle and see if I can get him up. If he gets stuck, there we go. Give him the chance to figure it out. You don't want to feed him for breaking and coming to you from the stay, because I don't want to confuse him thinking that at times there's value in staying still and then there's value in getting up and moving. Because if there's value in getting up and moving, then that also means that sometimes stay could equal wiggling versus I want stays to equal just be stuck. Nice. Smart boy. Yes. He says, I didn't really actually want to leave my stay position. Good job. And obviously, as he's getting more advanced, you could then add in some movement or some distance. But if that means your puppy breaks, which means they get up from that position, it means we're rushing the steps too quickly and he doesn't understand what to do as he's learning how to generalize the behavior. So if let's say he's getting really comfortable and he's offering some downs and he's kind of relaxing, then you may find adding more difficulty to be an option. Nice. just like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. Ready? Yes. If your puppy breaks from the down and you really wanted to have a down scenario, he's like, no, I'd rather wrestle. Ready, bed? Then you could, again, when you go to feed, is just make sure he's in the down position as you go to reinforce. So right there, if he goes back and replaces himself, you can feed him for that. Because remember, we're just building value in this weird stuff that we'd hope he wants to do, again, down the road. Nice, yes. So again, let's say I want to end my stay. Again, good job. I'm going to say all done with some lovies. Ready? And we get him up and break from the position. He's like, no, I'm going back. But if your babe is, again, struggling with a stay, don't add all the 3Ds that I mentioned prior. So your duration, your distance, and your distraction scenarios, because then you're adding all of the elements together and it makes it much, much harder. Good job, sir. All right, but we'll give Mr. Z a little break from these stays on our dog bed. We'll work another little skill.